The Lowe's Halloween 2022 12-foot mummy has been leaked. Let's take a look at him. For everything scary, I'm GMHaunts, and welcome to a kind of surprising video because Lowe's is jumping onto the 12-foot Halloween train. Well, ladies and gentlemen, obviously Home Depot has become very much known over the past couple of years to be the original creator of the 12-foot Halloween characters. In 2020, we saw the release of the classic 12-foot skeleton. In 2021, we saw the Inferno Pumpkin skeleton, and then now, brand new for this year, it just recently got leaked, we're seeing a brand new 12-foot witch getting released for the Home Depot Halloween season. Now, obviously, these 12-foot props have been selling incredibly well for Home Depot because it seems to be that regular consumers as well as hunters like myself really do enjoy these 12-foot figures because they're huge, they're impressive, and they look really good next to other Halloween animatronics. Well, it looks like the success of Home Depot's 12-foot props are leading to more companies jumping onto the 12-foot train because as of last night, some brand new leaked images came out revealing that Lowe's, of all Halloween companies, I'm going to get into that later, is actually making their own 12-foot character with the help of Gemmy, obviously a very popular Halloween manufacturer, as the manufacturer to make this brand new prop. Now, this was pretty surprising because Lowe's, most of the time, does not have a huge Halloween lineup. But this year, it looks like they're going a little bit bigger, they're going a little bit better. At least that's what they thought, and they're making a brand new 12-foot mummy. Now, interestingly enough, Gemmy has actually been hinting this brand new mummy animatronic to us for a couple of days now. Yesterday was April 1st, obviously April Fool's Day, and Gemmy actually posted on their official Instagram page a kind of very close-up shot of the face of this mummy, hinting at it and saying that it would be sold at Lowe's during the 2022 season. A couple days before that, they uploaded this kind of animated computer graphic, a little GIF video that had like a mummy tomb, and then there was a mummy hand that reached out of it, and it kind of did this whole animated thing, once again hinting at this brand new mummy animatronic. So normally companies, and especially manufacturers, don't do kind of hints or like teasers like this, but for this brand new 12-foot mummy, Gemmy has been getting in on the fun and hinting at it before it actually released. Now, the last thing I'll say before I get into my actual thoughts and taking a look at this brand new prop, I do just want to say, obviously I have been saying it multiple times throughout this video, that this animatronic is manufactured by Gemmy. It is manufactured by Gemmy, but I also do want to mention that it is being manufactured in Party Time Latex Factory, which is another manufacturer for Gemmy. So similar to the Morris Costumes Chucky that just got leaked, there's kind of two manufacturers working on this one animatronic. You have Party Time Factory being used, but then you have Gemmy also behind the manufacturing. So just a little bit of an interesting nugget of information to go with this release. Without further ado, let's take a look at this brand new leaked Gemmy / Lowe's 2022 12-foot mummy. So while you're seeing the photos on the screen here, I do just want to give a little bit of an explanation. The reason why you can see that there's multiple different colors, it looks like, of this mummy is because he actually has short circuit lights that are inside of him that can be switched by the owner between red, green, blue, and white. This creates the illusion that when he's activated, he's kind of getting electrocuted. I know what you're thinking, why should a mummy look like he's getting electrocuted? I'm not really sure, I'll get into that more in a little bit, but I do just want to say that. And also, one other thing I want to say, the reason the photos look fake is because these are actually photoshopped. It seems to be that as of right now, there hasn't been a full, complete photo of the actual item released as of yet. These seem to be some early ones that were actually photoshopped just to create the look. So these are not fake, they were photoshopped, but they are real and he will be sold at Lowe's during the 2022 Halloween season. So without further ado, let's get into my actual thoughts and taking a look at this brand new Lowe's 2022 Gemmy / Party Time, whatever manufacturer you want to say, illuminated 12-foot mummy. Now, this guy is pretty interesting, and there's a lot to say about him, so let's just dive right into it. Like I mentioned, first of all, this guy is 12 feet tall. Now, this is very interesting because, like I mentioned in the beginning, Lowe's doesn't most of the time have a big Halloween lineup. They'll always have a couple of kind of interesting items. Normally, they'll have 1 or 2 animatronics per year, but they really don't get into it that much, nearly not as much as other Halloween companies do, such as Home Depot, who has really started to get into it a lot over the past couple of years. That's why it's so interesting to see that Lowe's is actually releasing a 12-foot animatronic, manufacturing it by Gemmy / Party Time, whatever you want to say, and selling it in their locations. Now, obviously, this inspiration from Lowe's is 100% coming from Home Depot and them taking a look at Home Depot's success with their 12-foot props. Home Depot has had some really amazing sales with their 12-foot skeletons, and I feel like Lowe's is looking over at that saying, hey, we're a hardware store too. We can tap into those same amount of sales by going with Gemmy as a manufacturer and making it 12-foot money. Honestly, I don't think they'll be able to replicate that, and the reason that is because, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, this item kind of is very, very bad. In my opinion, I am not a huge fan of this guy at all. I feel like this guy is super lackluster, and so much more could have been done with him if Lowe's wanted to go in the 12-foot direction. The first red flag is that this guy is manufactured by Gemmy. Obviously, Gemmy was a huge manufacturer of Halloween animatronics back in the decades around 2010 and stuff like that. They were really big, and they did some really amazing products. Some of the best stuff that we've ever seen released by any Halloween company, most of the time for Spirit Halloween. Over the past couple of years, Gemmy has really gone down in quality and also just design. Their stuff has really lost that flair and that quality that it had 10, 15 years ago. Over the past couple of years, it's gotten worse and worse, and they tend to only work with Lowe's every year now. Other companies have actually dropped them because of how bad their quality has gotten, and the only company that still really works with them a lot is Lowe's, so it's not surprising that their 12-foot prop is being manufactured by Gemmy. Now, this doesn't have to be a bad thing. Gemmy isn't always the worst. It doesn't mean their quality is like always going to just break on you. They do most of the time still use metal, same stuff that other companies such as SVI and Techie Design are using, but most of the time it's more that their detailing and their sculpts are not nearly on par with these other manufacturers. I feel like you can definitely see that when taking a look at this brand new 12-foot mummy. Taking a look at the face of this guy, I'm really not a fan. Honestly, to me, this looks more like a skeleton head than it does a mummy. I'm not even a huge, I kind of understand it. A mummy can be more of a skeleton, but I feel like the face on this guy, he more looks kind of funny and cartoony than realistic. Now, if you're going in the kind of family-friendly, child-friendly mummy, I kind of understand it, but I feel like if you're going for a 12-foot thing, you're not going for a family-friendly thing because he's huge and he's meant to be scary. Honestly, I'm not a fan of the face at all. So much more could have been done. You could have done some toilet paper like a classic mummy is, or some kind of like, I don't even know, wrapping around his head to really create that mummy effect. But instead, Lowe's and Gemmy and Party Time have really just gone with a skeleton head that really doesn't match with the rest of the mummy look, in my opinion. Not a fan of it at all. It looks really cartoony, it looks really child-friendly, and I would have gone in a much more mummy direction than we're seeing here. Taking a look at the body, I'm actually not even a huge critic of the body. I actually like what's going on here, other than the LED lights, which we'll get to in a second. Obviously, he has a huge structure for the actual body, because since he's 12 feet tall, he has to have a pretty big structure. He has some classic bend at the knees to kind of support him. His arms are straight out forward, kind of looking like he's going to lunge at you. He will not lunge forward, but it kind of looks like that with his arms just kind of forward. He has some very skinny arms. You can kind of see his ribcage through his chest there where his LED lights are. And he has a bunch of kind of cloth, creepy cloth, freaky fabric, whatever you want to call it, hanging off him to create that mummy look. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the body itself. I think the detailing is really nice. They really just went with a tattered up clothing kind of look to him, and I actually really enjoy it. I feel like if you put on a creepier head to this body, this guy would have been 10 times better, because I really do enjoy the body of this guy. I love the creepy cloth that's kind of dangling off of him. Obviously, it's a pretty classic look. This is not new. This is something that we see in a lot of kind of old, creepy animatronics. But nonetheless, I think this one actually looks pretty good, especially with the 12-foot structure that we're seeing here. I like that you can see his ribcage as well. I feel like that's pretty cool, especially for a mummy. Most of the time, you can't see the bones of a mummy, so I kind of like the idea that you are able to see his ribcage through the kind of tattered up freaky fabric that is on his chest. Like I mentioned, I'm a pretty big fan of this. I like the body on this guy. I think it looks good. I like the creepy cloth, and I just feel like if he had a better head, this would be a much better animatronic. Taking a look at the second thing that goes along with his actual body structure and his body, this is the LED lights that I mentioned in the beginning, that you can switch between different colors. Not a huge fan of that. I feel like, why would you want the mummy to look like he's being electrocuted? Or why would you want him to light up green or blue or red? That's not a mummy. A mummy doesn't light up blue. I'm really not a huge fan of that. I do like the white color that you can use, because I feel like the white is kind of the best color that goes with this guy. If I was the manufacturer, I would only give him the white color, because I feel like that's all you need. Or maybe no LEDs at all. Maybe just like a white LED in the eyes, or maybe red or yellow, something like that. The green, the blue, the red, all the colors that we're seeing here that aren't white or yellow or gold, whatever you want to call it, are just not at all fitting with this. in my opinion. Again, if they're going for a family-friendly item, then maybe it makes sense, but that's not what this is supposed to be, in my opinion. This should be a creepy 12-foot mummy, not one that lights up blue, because it doesn't match at all. A mummy is not colorful. A mummy shouldn't look like it's being electrocuted, and although it's a kind of unique idea, it doesn't make any sense, and it just feels so tapped out, in my opinion, from the Halloween community, or any haunters themselves. I feel like Gemmy is completely in the wrong mindset, thinking, let's create a mummy that lights up blue. Why would anyone in the Halloween world want that? It doesn't make any sense, and I'm not a fan at all of the color-changing LEDs that are being featured in this mummy. It doesn't make sense. He shouldn't look like he's being electrocuted, and if he needs LED lights at all, put him in his eyes or put him in his body, but just make it a white or a yellow color. That's really all he needs. Now, at the time of filming this, we do not have an official video of this guy, so we don't know what kind of animation he will have. I have heard rumors that he'll kind of turn from side to side, or he'll have some kind of head turning, but that's really what I've heard. I don't really know if it's true. Take that with a big grain of salt, because we don't have an official demo video. Also, at this time, we do not have an official price for this guy. Since he's 12 feet tall and he has a very big structure, I would kind of imagine that he's going to be somewhere around the $300 range. He's probably going to be cheaper than the Home Depot 12-foot stuff, just because Home Depot stuff is manufactured by SVI, Seasonal Visions, and they are a much, much more higher quality company than Gemmy is, and Gemmy is just much more kind of cheap. So most likely this guy, he actually could be even cheaper than $300, just because he is being manufactured by Gemmy. Now, the other thing that I do want to show in this video is that alongside the pictures that I was showing of the color-changing LED lights that are in the sky, we actually have another photo that is from the Gemmy or Party Time Factory, most likely Party Time Factory, that actually shows these guys being built and shows them all kind of standing next to each other. Now, I do want to say this is a pretty cool photo because we get to see a whole bunch of this guy kind of standing next to each other in the factory. Now, in my opinion, I actually enjoy the look of this guy in the factory a lot more than in that photo that I was just showing that has all the color-changing lights. In this factory photo, the mummies that we're seeing here look a lot more detailed, they look a lot more realistic, and the head looks a lot cooler than what it did in that Photoshop photo. Now, like I just mentioned, and like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, the color-changing light photos are supposedly Photoshopped because they were taken very early in the production of this guy, and this factory photo is legit. This is the final one, and this is not Photoshopped at all. This is the legit animatronic. Now, if this is what the guy will actually look like, and this is what the mummy will actually look like, I actually like him a lot more. Those Photoshop photos don't look amazing, and especially those color-changing lights and his face. I'm not a huge fan of them, but this photo in the factory makes this guy look a lot better. If I had to compare both of them, I'm easily going to take this guy over the color-changing one. This one looks a lot more detailed. The one in the factory, or the finalized one, whatever you want to call it, in my opinion, looks a lot better. It looks a lot more detailed, and it looks a lot more kind of like rotten. Although I will say this, it doesn't really look like a mummy. Again, in my opinion, this guy looks more like a creepy, decrepit skeleton than he does like a mummy, and that's simply because of the head. The head needed to have some kind of wrapping around it to really make him look like a mummy. He really just looks like a decrepit skeleton, but in my opinion, I actually like this a lot anyway. I understand that he's supposed to be a mummy, but I actually like the look of the factory version of this guy a lot more than the Photoshop one. I don't mind that he doesn't totally look like a mummy. I actually enjoy the decrepit skull look that we're seeing here, but nonetheless, in my opinion, he looks a lot better in this factory photo than he does in those color-changing LED Photoshop images. But nonetheless, I'm not a huge fan of this guy, like I mentioned in the beginning. I feel like the head does look cartoony in those Photoshop photos. It does look better in the factory photo that we're seeing here. But once again, this is taken from a pretty far distance away. I'm going to have to see some close-ups before I can make a full opinion on his face and his rest of the body before I can make a decision on what I really think about this guy. Taking a look at those Photoshop photos, I have to say that I'm not a big fan of this guy at all, just because I feel like he looks really cheap, and I'm not a huge fan of his face. But then taking a look at this factory photo, I actually enjoy him a lot more, and I think he looks a lot more detailed. I'm going to have to see some close-ups, and I'm probably going to have to see this guy in person, in real life, at my local Lowe's location, before I can make up an opinion on this guy. But nonetheless, it's pretty interesting to see that Lowe's is getting on the 12-foot Halloween character world. They watched Home Depot. They saw the Home Depot kind of went to the stars with how much they were able to sell of the 12-foot characters. And it looks like Lowe's wants to get in on those sales and make their own 12-foot character with Gemmy/Party Time as the manufacturer. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up my video, taking a look at and reacting to this brand new leaked Lowe's 2022 Gemmy/Party Time Mummy animatronic. Once again, I really don't have a full opinion on this guy as of yet, just because we can't really see him that well in the factory photo, where in my opinion he looks better, and in the Photoshop pictures I feel like it doesn't really give him justice because they are Photoshopped and they're not what he's actually going to look like in the final model. So I'm going to have to see some more close-ups of this guy and in person before I can make a full opinion on this brand new leaked 12-foot mummy. Ladies and gentlemen, remember as always, for everything scary, I'm GMHaunts. I'll see you guys later for more Lowe's Halloween 2022 videos. Goodbye.